In daily life, it's easy to be deceived by smiles and pretty words. But what if I told you that there are subtle signs that reveal whether someone truly has character? Certain behaviors can serve as red flags, and ignoring them can lead to unexpected consequences. Imagine being able to recognize these signs before it's too late. People lacking character often exhibit behaviors that seem harmless but are filled with hidden intentions. Have you ever noticed someone who always plays the victim? Or someone who never takes responsibility for their actions? These are just a few examples that can go unnoticed. And what about someone who lies so naturally, you start questioning your own perception of the truth? This kind of manipulation is more common than one might think. Each sign is a piece of a puzzle that, when put together, reveals the true face of the person. What would you do if you could identify these traits? How would that change your relationships? In the end, you may be surprised by what you discover about the people around you. Lack of honesty. The lack of honesty is a behavior that can be quite noticeable in personal relationships. When someone lies frequently, it creates an environment of distrust. The person being deceived starts to question everything they hear, and this insecurity can lead to conflict. It's not just the lie itself that causes problems, but the feeling of betrayal that comes along with it. People feel disrespected, which can lead to ruptures in relationships. Moreover, omissions are a subtle form of dishonesty. Sometimes, a person may withhold the whole truth, thinking they're protecting the other. However, this lack of transparency ultimately creates a barrier. When the truth comes to light, the impact can be even more painful. People need to know that honesty, even if painful, is always better than feeling deceived. Distorting the truth is another manifestation of a lack of integrity. This can happen in various ways, such as exaggerating a situation or downplaying the significance of a fact. When someone distorts the truth, they not only harm themselves but also those around them. Healthy relationships are based on trust, and this trust is broken by small distortions that often seem harmless. The lack of honesty can also manifest in the workplace. Employees who are not transparent in their communications can create a heavy atmosphere among colleagues. This can result in misunderstandings and ultimately a decrease in productivity. Being honest is not just a moral issue, but also a matter of efficiency in daily interactions. Finally, dealing with a lack of honesty is a challenge. When someone realizes they are surrounded by lies, they may feel helpless. Trust, once broken, is hard to restore. Therefore, cultivating a culture of honesty is essential in any relationship, be it personal or professional. Emotional manipulation. Emotional manipulation is a delicate but very present theme in interpersonal relationships. This practice involves tactics that seek to control or influence the behavior of others, often in a disguised manner. For instance, a person may use emotional blackmail to get what they want, making the other feel guilty or responsible for their well-being. This type of relationship is toxic and exhausting. Psychological games are another form of manipulation. In these cases, the person creates a scenario that leaves the other feeling confused or insecure. This can lead to a vicious cycle of doubt and anxiety. Those who manipulate often take advantage of the vulnerability of others, which can cause deep emotional damage. It is essential to recognize these patterns to avoid falling into the traps of manipulation. Additionally, emotional manipulation can occur in friendships. Sometimes, friends may exploit the kindness or loyalty of others. This can make the manipulated person feel that they must always please, even if it means sacrificing their own needs. This type of relationship is unhealthy and can lead to significant emotional wear and tear. Manipulation can also happen in romantic relationships, where one partner may try to control the other through compliments and criticism. This creates a dynamic where one side always feels inferior. It is vital for people to recognize these signs and seek relationships based on mutual respect and open communication. Ultimately, dealing with emotional manipulation requires courage. The manipulated person needs to realize that they deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. Cutting ties with manipulators can be challenging, but it is an essential step for emotional health. First step is always the hardest, but it is crucial to break free from this harmful cycle. Broken promises. Broken promises are another issue that can cause significant dissatisfaction in relationships. When someone promises something and fails to deliver, it demonstrates a lack of respect for the other person's feelings. This breach of trust can lead to disappointment and hurt, becoming an obstacle to building healthy relationships. To promise is a form of commitment, and failing to honor it generates frustration. It is important to remember that promises should not be made lightly. Often, people make promises without considering the consequences, merely to please or avoid conflict. This may seem like a quick fix, but it ultimately becomes a bigger problem down the road. Promises should be made responsibly, with consideration for the impact they will have on the other person. Furthermore, the frequency with which someone breaks promises can create a pattern of distrust. The deceived person starts to doubt not only future promises, but also the sincerity of those who make them. This distrust can spill over into other areas of life, affecting not just the relationship in question, but also other social interactions. In workplace environments, broken promises can be even more detrimental. A leader who fails to keep their promises may demotivate their team. This can lead to decreased productivity and a negative organizational climate. Promises should be viewed as commitments that, when broken, affect not just one person, but an entire group. Finally, it is essential to work on restoring trust after a promise has been broken. This requires time and effort, but it is possible. Open communication and a willingness to take responsibility are necessary steps to rebuild trust. It is vital for everyone to learn the importance of honoring their commitments, as this is the foundation of any lasting relationship. Lack of empathy. The lack of empathy is a behavior that can go unnoticed, but its consequences are profound. When someone cannot put themselves in another's shoes, it creates a void in relationships. The feelings and needs of those around become secondary, generating an environment of indifference. For example, in a conversation, if one person is sad and the other shows no concern, the sadness can intensify. The lack of emotional response can make the person feel even more isolated. This type of behavior is reflected in various everyday situations. Imagine a coworker going through a difficult time but receiving no support or understanding. The lack of empathy can lead to a toxic work environment where people do not feel valued or respected. The absence of understanding can create barriers, making it difficult to build healthy and productive relationships. Moreover, the lack of empathy can affect the ability to resolve conflict. When people do not make an effort to understand each other's viewpoints, misunderstandings multiply. Communication becomes superficial, and solutions to problems become harder to reach. It's as if everyone is in their own bubble, unaware of the impact their actions have on others. In education, the lack of empathy can be particularly harmful. Children who do not learn to care about their peers' feelings can grow up to be insensitive adults. This can lead to bullying and exclusion behaviors, creating a vicious cycle of pain and suffering. It is essential to cultivate empathy early on, teaching the importance of putting oneself in another's place and listening to their concern. Finally, the lack of empathy contributes to a more polarized society. When people do not strive to understand differing opinions, dialogue becomes impossible. Divisions widen and conflicts intensify. To build a more united world, it is essential that everyone seeks to develop this skill, learning to value and respect others' experiences and emotions. Selfish behavior. Selfish behavior is a characteristic that can be noticed in various everyday situations. When a person puts their own needs and desires above those of others, it can wreak havoc on interpersonal relationships. Imagine a friend who always chooses what to do without considering the group's preferences. This type of attitude can generate frustration and discontent, leading to a gradual distancing from those around them. Additionally, selfishness can manifest in small daily actions. For example, someone who is always late for commitments, without regard for others' time, demonstrates a lack of respect. This behavior not only irritates others, can also create an atmosphere of distrust. When people perceive that their own agendas are more important than the collective well-being, it can generate resentment. Another aspect of selfish behavior is the lack of willingness to help. In a moment of need, the selfish person may retreat, choosing to focus solely on their own issues. This can be especially evident in friendships, where mutual support is essential. If one friend is facing problems and the other shows no interest in helping, the relationship can quickly deteriorate. The lack of reciprocity is one of the main factors leading to the end of friendships. In the long run, selfish behavior can have more serious consequences. Romantic relationships, for example, require a certain degree of commitment and sacrifice. When one person only thinks of themselves, it can lead to the deterioration of the relationship. The partner may feel undervalued and eventually seek someone who shows more consideration and love. Ultimately, living selfishly does not bring lasting satisfaction. Although it may seem that people are benefiting by prioritizing their own needs, the truth is that true happiness often comes from connections and caring for others. Selfishness can lead to a cycle of loneliness and disconnection, where people feel increasingly isolated and dissatisfied with their lives. Therefore, it is essential to cultivate generosity and consideration for others to build healthier and more fulfilling relationships. Disloyalty. Disloyalty is a word that carries a heavy weight in human relationships. When someone betrays another's trust, whether in a friendship, a romantic relationship, or work partnerships, the consequences can be devastating. Loyalty is one of the pillars that sustain any bond. Without it, relationships become fragile and susceptible to collapse. The feeling of betrayal can leave deep and often irreversible scars. In a relationship, disloyalty can manifest in various forms. It can be physical betrayal, where one party seeks emotional or physical comfort in another person. But it can also be something more subtle, like gossip and unshared secrets. When a person feels betrayed, it is common for feelings of anger, sadness, and distrust to arise. This not only affects the victim, but can also create a cycle of distrust that spreads to other relationships. Disloyalty in friendships is equally painful. Imagine discovering that a close friend shared your secrets or lied about something important. This breach of trust can make someone feel isolated and vulnerable. Often, disloyalty is driven by personal insecurities or the need to feel superior to others. Unfortunately, this lack of consideration for others' feelings can end up driving people apart, creating an environment full of distrust. In work environments, disloyalty can be even more harmful. When a colleague tries to undermine another to climb the hierarchy or takes credit for someone else's work, it not only affects the relationship between coworkers, but can also compromise the performance of the entire team. The lack of loyalty creates a toxic atmosphere where people feel insecure and unmotivated. This, in turn, can reflect in productivity and the company's result. Finally, disloyalty teaches an important lesson about the importance of communication and transparency in relationships. When people feel comfortable expressing their concerns and insecurities, the chances of disloyalty decrease. Building a safe space where everyone can be honest about their feelings can help strengthen bonds and prevent betrayals in the future. Disrespect for rules and norms. Disrespect for rules and norms is a behavior that generates a significant impact on society. When individuals ignore laws or social norms, order and peaceful coexistence are compromised. This can be observed in different contexts, from minor infractions, such as not respecting cues, to more serious actions, like crimes. This lack of respect demonstrates a disconnection from the responsibility each of us has towards the collective. In many situations, the disregard for norms may stem from a sense of superiority, privilege. Some people believe they are above the rules and can act as they wish, without considering the consequences of their actions. This attitude not only harms those around them, but can also create an environment of impunity, where others feel encouraged to act similarly. The result is a vicious cycle that can lead to increased distrust and hostility among people. Moreover, breaking social norms can trigger a series of problems. For example, in a workplace environment, if an employee ignores conduct rules, it can affect the team's morale. Other collaborators may feel demotivated or even disrespected, which can reduce productivity and collaboration. The lack of respect for norms is not just an individual issue, but has collective repercussions that can harm everyone. The consequences of disrespecting rules and norms also extend to the legal realm. When people commit crimes or infractions, they not only face punishments, but also contribute to a climate of insecurity in society. Fear and distrust spread, affecting everyone's quality of life. In an environment where norms are respected, people feel safer and more comfortable, resulting in a more harmonious coexistence. Lastly, it is essential to remember that rules and norms exist to create a standard of coexistence that benefits everyone. Promoting a culture of respect and responsibility is fundamental to ensuring that social relations remain healthy. When each individual takes on the responsibility of following norms, they contribute to a fairer and more equitable environment where everyone can feel valued and respected. And now that you are familiar with the 7 signs of people without character, it's time to reflect. Have you ever encountered someone who exhibits these characteristics? How did you react? Remember, recognizing these signs is the first step to protecting yourself and those you love. Stoicism teaches us to maintain calm and clarity amidst chaos. So if you identify these attitudes, stand firm, but don't stop here. Ask yourself, how can you cultivate a strong and integral character in your own life? What actions can you take today to become the best version of yourself? Personal development is a continuous journey. Remember, your daily choices shape who you are. And if you enjoyed this content, leave a like and share it with friends who need to hear this. Let's create a more conscious and strong community together. Stay tuned, as in upcoming videos, we will explore more valuable lessons from Stoicism that can transform your life. What topics would you like to see here? Leave your suggestions in the comments. Your participation is essential to our journey.